Oleg Nikolaevich sat in his office checking the company's reports. The man held a very high position and was none other than an oil magnate. Now, approaching 60, he confidently led a huge business, solving serious problems and difficulties. But once upon a time, it all started from scratch. He traveled the country with geologists, spent years at drilling rigs, watched, learned, and eventually, according to his own calculations, opened his own oil well. The risk was enormous, but it paid off, and the man became rich almost magically. While he was busy with the oil business, which took a lot of his strength and time, his own family was led by his faithful wife, Alla Sergeevna. She could be relied on in everything, as she was decisive, authoritative, and intelligent. Their son Sasha was a late child because half of his father's life was spent achieving prosperity and weight in society. The boy grew up practically without a father, as he was constantly busy with work, and his mother ran the house. The son studied well, graduated from university, and also followed in his father's footsteps, helping him in business. He often went on business trips, met with business partners, and managed branches. But when it came to his personal life, he wasn't very lucky. He fell deeply in love with one girl, but it didn't work out. His mother insisted on a profitable marriage with the daughter of a judge, Olga, but it turned out that she was childless and promiscuous. Then Sasha decided to take a child from an orphanage and adopt her. The girl was 2 years old, no longer a baby. At first, his wife supported this idea, but when it came to diapers and sleepless nights, she realized that she didn't want children at all. The adopted daughter only irritated her, demanding a lot of attention and care. The irresponsible mother quickly grew tired of it all and soon betrayed the family without any remorse, running away abroad with her lover. Sasha suffered greatly, but did not abandon or return the little girl to the shelter. He hired a nanny and raised little Nadia. And a year ago, his son tragically died. Sasha went on a business trip with a large sum of money, and that was it. They only found a completely burnt car and a charred body. It is impossible to describe the overwhelming grief of losing their only son and heir. They did not want to live at all, but they could not give up because of little Nadia. After their son's death, Oleg Nikolaevich and his wife began to raise their granddaughter themselves. 5-year-old Nadia was the magnate's joy. He adored her and cherished her soul. The businessman's wife also trembled like a hen over the rosy-cheeked chubby princess and demanded strict adherence to all the rules of upbringing from the nanny. Especially when she hugged them tightly and whispered, "Grandpa, Grandma, I love you so much." The girl remembered her dad, loved him deeply, and often asked where he was and when he would come home, as Sasha often went on business trips. But the couple never dared to tell her the terrible truth so as not to traumatize the child's psyche, and promised that her dad would return soon. A phone call pulled the businessman out of his overwhelming memories. On the other end of the line, Nadia's elderly nanny, Irina Borisovna, was nervously chattering, "Oleg Nikolaevich, we have an emergency here. I was walking with Nadia. She was sledding with some kids down the hill, and they got carried away and she almost fell into the river. And I'm not as agile as I used to be and couldn't keep up with her. Thank God, there was a quick-witted boy nearby. He sells old books on the embankment and looks like a homeless child. He saved her, literally pulling her by the collar. Please forgive me. But don't worry, everything is fine with the girl now. We are already home, changed clothes, and I steamed her feet just in case." The businessman jumped out of his chair and yelled angrily, "I'll be there in a minute. What were you thinking? This is pure negligence. And what if it weren't for that brave boy, then what?" The man rushed home, burst into the room and hugged his granddaughter, Nadusha. "Granddaughter! Are you okay? Why don't you listen to your nanny?" The frightened girl babbled. "Everything is fine. Grandpa, don't shout, please. I won't do it again. Misha saved me, just one boy. And he also gave me a little book so I wouldn't cry. As a keepsake. So beautiful and interesting. There are such fairy tales in it, even the nanny doesn't know them, and Grandma. Probably, too." The businessman asked, "Here's a good boy, Miska, a brave boy, and show me what kind of book it is." The little girl handed him an old and beautiful fairy tale book in a leather binding. He opened the first page, read something there, and froze. Then his face changed, he broke out in a cold sweat, and began to question the nanny. "Irina Borisovna, what does this Misha look like and where can I find him? I want to thank him." The woman replied, "He stands on the embankment every day, trading old books. He's so thin and light-skinned. He also has a noticeable mole on his cheek. You'll recognize him right away when you see him. He's dressed poorly and sloppily. Please don't scold me too much. I know it's my fault. The most important thing is not to tell Alla Sergeevna, otherwise she'll kick me out right away. She's got a sharp temper." Oleg Nikolaevich smiled. "Yeah, with my wife you won't get away with anything. Okay, we have a deal, I won't say anything. But Nadusha needs to be warned, she knows how to keep secrets like a partisan. And you, please, keep a closer eye on my hedgehog. So that this doesn't happen again." The businessman spent the whole night without sleep, tossing and turning, thinking a lot, remembering, quietly drinking cognac in the kitchen. And couldn't find peace. He could barely wait for the next morning and rushed not to the office, but to the embankment. The man went straight to the embankment, looked around, but didn't see anyone resembling the boy. Then he asked the street vendors. "I need a boy, Misha, he sells interesting old books here. I don't see him." They answered briskly, "Yes, he's not here today, he's already gone. But he trades almost every day, so you'll catch him again." "Oh, poor boy. Such a tragedy." The businessman went to the embankment every day, but the boy was still not there. He finally caught him on the fourth day. Misha was small and thin, it was freezing outside, and he was wearing a light, worn-out demi-season jacket and thin-soled summer sneakers. He kept shifting from foot to foot and warming his numb fingers in his pockets. The businessman approached, examined the unique expensive books, and asked, "Hello, your name is Misha, right? How much do you sell the books for and where do you get them, if it's not a secret?" The frightened boy shrunk at the sight of such a solid gentleman and quietly replied, "Yes, I'm Misha. Take the fairy tales, they're very interesting, only 250 rubles each. Don't think they're stolen, my mother collected them all her life, she worked as a librarian, collected them, and now she's very sick, so I'm selling them to save up for surgery. And to buy food at home." Oleg Nikolaivich's heart sank and went into his heels. Despite the cold, he suddenly felt hot. Exactly. That's her. Such coincidences don't happen. He continued the conversation. "Let me buy them all from you, wholesale. You just recently saved my granddaughter. Didn't let her fall into the river. Her name is Nadia. Thank you, you're a brave boy. Will you invite me over? Maybe I'll buy some more books from you. I collect them too." And maybe I can help with something along with my mother. The joyful little boy carefully counted the money he received and put it in a small wallet. Then he said, "Of course, let's go, just wait for me here for a bit. I'll quickly run to the store and buy some milk and rice, so my mom and I can cook porridge, and some bread too, okay? I haven't eaten anything since morning." The businessman nodded, holding the old books in his hands and remembering the past, swallowing tears. Sasha's son had always been very headstrong, and despite his very authoritarian mother, who tried to control everything, he often went against her in his decisions. He believed he had his own opinion and didn't have to follow anyone's lead. It so happened that in his youth, he fell head over heels in love with an ordinary girl, a librarian from a poor family named Tamara. They met completely by chance in a cafe, and Tamara so captured Sasha's heart that he couldn't live without her for a day. Oleg Nikolaevich remembered how excited his son was about her. "Dad, you understand, she's not like all those rich foolish girls. Tamara is smart and well-read, and she's also so beautiful. She hardly wears makeup, she doesn't need it, and her hair, those long silky locks, I've never seen anything like it. I have so much fun with her, it's easy and good. I even think about her all night. Can I invite her over? You'll definitely like her." This was Sasha's biggest mistake. His mother immediately took offense at the girl as soon as she found out that she came from a poor and unpromising family. The rest of the evening passed awkwardly, with the hostess of the house asking Tamara uncomfortable and even indecent questions and making it clear that she wasn't welcome there. She had a stereotype, imposed by high society, that they now belonged to the upper class, and therefore they had to marry a girl from a rich family, their level, so that it wouldn't be embarrassing to be seen with her in the local high society. Tamara was upset and ran home in tears, and Sasha was angry with his parents for their warm reception of his fiancée and went to comfort her. This whole situation was extremely unpleasant for the businessman. He tried to talk to his wife, but it was all in vain. She insisted, like a broken record, on one thing: "I didn't raise my son to marry the daughter of alcoholics. This is not happening. I will lie down and die before I allow this foolish union. My son will thank me later." So Alla Sergeevna was tearing and throwing things, trying to convince her son, "Sasha, don't be foolish, come to your senses. Why do you need this beggar? Who are her parents? Why do we need such relatives? Of course, she's a beautiful girl, no argument there. I understand that it's a young love affair. Okay, you had your fun, that's enough. Stop this childishness and pay attention to normal girls. You're a businessman after all." Sasha was indignant. "So Tamara is abnormal then? Why is that? She's well-read, speaks English perfectly, doesn't drink or smoke, very well-mannered. What's wrong with her? We don't choose our parents. Is it her fault that they're alcoholics? And the fact that we love each other, that's not an argument for you? So, according to you, stupid Larissa, for example, the daughter of a businessman who drinks whiskey and looks like a 30-year-old aunt, is worthy of high society, but my Tamara isn't? That's how it is. Well, you have your opinion, I have mine. And I'll marry the one I love, not the one you're trying to force on me." Such scandals arose more and more often, but Sasha still continued to see Tamara and even planned to leave his parents and rent a place with her. But Oleg Nikolaevich was not at all against Toma. He actually liked the potential bride very much. It was clear that she was simple and modest. He couldn't stand those boastful, sweet-talking girls who thought they were something special. After all, he had spent half his life on oil rigs with ordinary guys, and he liked hardworking and unassuming people. Many of them had achieved a lot, and status had nothing to do with it. But his wife couldn't explain this to herself. She had convinced herself that Sasha and Toma needed to be separated no matter what. Oleg Nikolaevich preferred not to get involved in family disputes, and he was, so to speak, a neutral party in this matter. Despite his mother's urging, Sasha continued to see Toma and asked his father to help him get a very rare book, Nenet's Fairy Tales. Toma was a librarian and collected books as a hobby. So, 3 days ago, the little boy from the embankment gave Nadusha this very book. There could be no doubt, as there was a note on the first page, "To my beloved Tomachka for a long memory." Oleg Nikolaevich didn't really know why Sasha broke up with Tamara, whether it was jealousy or foolishness. But it happened so suddenly and unexpectedly. His son suffered greatly, became withdrawn, and couldn't have any long-lasting relationships with anyone for a long time. Slowly but surely, over time, his son came to his senses, and his mother convinced him to marry Olga, the judge's daughter, whom he didn't love. That's where the madam went. She only loved herself and spent all day going to beauty salons and fashionable glamour parties. And after Nadusha appeared, she ran away with her lover to Europe. That's the girl from high society who disgraced them all. After her son's death, Alla Sergeevna was deeply saddened, and she blamed herself 100 times for being against her son's marriage to Tamara, and practically ruined Sasha's fate. She often cried at his grave and asked for forgiveness. But she immediately accepted Nadusha and loved her as her own. Since then, the elderly woman began to look at many things in life differently, but her son could not be brought back. Misha shouted, "I'm back!" "So, uncle, let's go visit." "It's too cold to stand here. The frost is strong today." They got in the car, and the little boy showed them the way. They didn't go far, but through some alleys. When Oleg Nikolaevich entered the old dormitory, he almost collapsed. The smell of fried fish, tobacco, dampness, and something else very unpleasant hit his nose. Children ran around the corridors, women hung their laundry on ropes in the corridor, chatting loudly, and some drunk crawled on all fours towards them. In short, it was a nightmare. The boy opened the shabby door with a key, and they entered the room. It was indeed poor, but very clean. Violets bloomed on the windowsills, and a beautiful embroidered tablecloth lay on the table. A thin, almost transparent, sick woman lay under a blanket on the couch, reading a book. Hearing footsteps, she exclaimed joyfully, "Mishenka, my son, you're back? Are you very cold?" Then she looked at Oleg Nikolaevich and suddenly stopped. The businessman recognized her by her eyes. They remained just as beautiful, bottomless, and indescribably sad. Oleg Nikolaevich even shed a tear and rushed to her. "Tamara? Tomachka! This is me, Oleg Nikolaevich, Sasha's father. Do you remember me? How are you? How are you doing? Lord, how many years have passed?" The woman, seeing the well-dressed businessman, recognized him immediately. Her face changed and she turned pale. She felt very uncomfortable that he saw her in such a weak state, and they lived with their son like church mice. "Hello, Oleg Nikolaevich, of course I remember you. It's been 9 years, exactly as long as it's been for Mishenka. How is Sasha? Is he alive and well? Did he get married? I hope you found a bride from high society after all." The businessman suddenly became gloomy. "Sasha tragically died a year ago. He went on a business trip and I never saw him alive again. They found his car completely burned and his body was so charred that I only recognized his belt buckle and ring. Now we're raising his granddaughter, Nadusha. My son adopted her shortly before he died, took her from an orphanage. He really wanted children, he was obsessed. And his wife, Olga, couldn't or didn't want to have children, I don't know. And then she just ran away with her lover abroad. That's how it goes. Tamara, why did you and Sasha break up? I never understood, to be honest. My son suffered for a long time, he couldn't forget you. Tell me, Misha, is he my grandson? When I saw him, I immediately knew, he has the same mole on his cheek as Sasha did. Tamara sighed, wiped away a tear and said, I don't want to talk about why we broke up, it still hurts a lot. Ask your wife, she made sure of it. I didn't know about Sasha, I'm really sorry. I secretly hope that maybe God will give us a chance to meet again, I loved him very much and still do. So I couldn't connect with anyone else. And yes, Mashenka is his son, that's true. I found out I was pregnant after we broke up. I cried for a long time, suffered, and wondered whether to tell him or not. I was scared, there was no one to help me. But my pride took over, and I decided that if I wasn't needed by your son, then the child wasn't either. So I'm raising him alone. It's very difficult, I won't lie. Especially now that I'm sick. My poor son worries about me, he sells my book collection just to earn a piece of bread. And I can't even buy him winter boots. Poor thing, he's still wearing sneakers. Oleg Nikolaevich asked, what are you sick with? Maybe I can help? Is it something serious? Tamara sadly replied, it's a very rare genetic disease. The knee joint gradually deteriorates, and a very expensive operation is needed to replace it, then you can live normally. But I'll never have enough money for that. That's why I'm suffering, I can hardly stand up, my leg is swollen, it doesn't bend, I can barely make it to the bathroom. And I'm afraid to think about what will happen next. I worry about my son, who will take care of him. And she quietly cried out of hopelessness. The man, emotional, took Tamara's hand, which was cold and lifeless. Tamara, don't worry, I'll start looking for a clinic that deals with these cases today. I need all your tests, analyses, and medical records. You'll be able to walk and live normally, I promise. And don't worry about me, Shu. I'll take him with me while you're getting treatment. You're not strangers, I won't abandon you, Dot. Here, take the money for now, while I sort everything out. Wait for me, I'll be back soon. Tamara started crying, why bother with me? You hated me and were against our relationship with Sasha. What does it matter if I live or die? Is this another conspiracy? I'm not surprised anymore. The businessman felt ashamed and looked away. Forgive us, Tamara. We regretted not letting you two be together after Sasha died. He never loved anyone else, and his life fell apart. I want to make amends, even if it's late. You're a good woman, and we ruined your life too. Don't worry, everything will be all right. Misha walked into the room carrying a tray of hot porridge and toast. He sat next to his mother and put the food on a stool. Mom, I made you some porridge and toast. Aunt Luba showed me how to make it. Let me help you sit up, you need to eat. It's delicious, I ate a whole plate myself. The businessman was touched by the 9-year-old boy's devotion to his mother. He helped Tamara eat, and she hugged Misha. Thank you, my dear boy, you're so kind and helpful. What would I do without you? The businessman wanted to hug his grandson and tell him how much he loved him, but he didn't want to upset Tamara. He had to talk to her later. Back at the office, he asked his deputy to find a good hospital, and he rushed home to confront his wife. Why did Sasha and Tamara break up years ago? I know it was your doing. I found Tamara, and she's been raising our grandson alone and needs surgery. Do you realize what we've done? We ruined our son's life. He wanted children, and he has a son who looks just like him. He's a wonderful boy who takes care of his sick mother at 9 years old. His wife refused to answer and said it was a painful topic for her. I want to know the truth. Why and how did Sasha and Tamara break up? Alla suddenly became quiet and blushed, feeling terribly ashamed and uncomfortable about remembering everything, but she understood from her husband's tone that resisting and lying was pointless. Yes, it was me who caused their falling out, she admitted. She asked an acquaintance to create a photo montage, attaching Tamara's face to the body of a naked girl, with another guy lying next to her. And then she presented these photos to Sasha with a note saying, "Look, cuckold, this is what your fiancé is up to." And that was it. They fought and broke up on their own. Sasha was insanely jealous and furious, and Tamara turned out to be very proud and deeply offended, so they parted ways. Oleg couldn't hold back and shouted so loudly that the veins in his neck bulged with anger. "Alla, why? Answer me! Did it make you feel better that Sasha ruined his life? After that girl, he never loved anyone else. We could have lived fine and raised our son. What have you done? And I'm a fool, I didn't really pay attention and let it all go." Alla suddenly burst into tears, so sincere and bitter. "Don't yell at me. I don't know why. Back then, it seemed to me that I was doing everything right. What else can you do when you're born into poverty? It was much later, when I saw how much my son suffered, how he struggled with Olga, who he didn't love and who cheated on him, that I began to realize what I had done. Please forgive me. So what now? Should I go hang myself?" Her husband softened. He couldn't stand to see a woman cry, and he hugged her. "Okay, what's done is done. Both of them are good people, what can I say? But we can fix our mistakes. I've already asked my deputy to look for a clinic for Tamara to have knee surgery. You should see her leg, it's swollen and immobile. She can barely stand up, she's almost completely disabled. And she's a young and beautiful woman. She's very worried about our son. And Misha will stay with us for now. I hope you won't mind having your own grandson here." Alla wiped away her tears and chattered on, "Of course not. I love our little Nadushka, and I'll love our grandson too. And I'll make peace with Tamara and ask for forgiveness, I promise." Nadia ran out of the children's room, clapping her hands and hugging her grandfather. "Hi, Grandpa! Someone's going to live with us, I heard. Why were you guys fighting?" Oleg chuckled and lightly tapped his granddaughter's nose. "Who do we have here, so curious and eavesdropping on adult conversations? Yes, that boy Misha will be living with us for a while his mother gets treatment. It turns out he's not a stranger to us. He's also my grandson. Can you imagine? That's how it goes. You don't mind, do you? Will you share your toys with him?" Nadia clapped her hands and was very happy. "Yay! Misha is nice. He saved me. And he's kind. When is he coming?" Alla raised her eyebrows in surprise. "I don't understand. How does Nadia know Misha? What did he save her from? Am I missing something?" The businessman slyly smiled. "It was our little secret, but our chatty granddaughter couldn't keep it. I'll tell you, but promise me you won't scold the nanny." Recently they were walking and sledding down the embankment. Nadia's sled went in the wrong direction, and she almost fell into the river. Irina Borisovna, of course, rushed after her, but could she make it? And Misha happened to be selling books there and ran over just in time to save our granddaughter. He even gave her something as a keepsake. I'll show you now. The man took out the book of fairy tales. Here, this is when I helped Sasha and ordered it for Tamara through connections. So I realized that it was my grandson. And then he brought me to his mother. You should have seen how much Tom is suffering now. She's so thin, almost transparent. We are obliged to help her. Do you understand? Alla quietly replied, "Oh my God, Oleg. Of course, let's help." A few days later, they found an excellent clinic for Tamara and operated on her, and Misha's grandparents took him in. At first, the boy was shy and embarrassed. He had never been in such a luxurious mansion. But Nadia, the little jester, helped him quickly adapt. They played and drew together, and the boy treated her like a younger sister, taking care of her and making sure nothing happened to her. Alla often looked at the boy and quietly cried. He looked just like Sasha. She even took out her son's childhood photos, a copy. The same serious gaze from under his eyebrows and a mole on his cheek. She was so ashamed of her terrible act, her conscience burned inside her like hot iron. She scolded herself, but everything could have been completely different. Why did I quarrel them? It was like some kind of obsession. And you can't bring back your son anymore. You can't ask for forgiveness. Fortunately, the operation was successful, the knee joint was replaced, and a long rehabilitation was ahead. Tamara was visited often by the whole family. Misha and Nadia drew pictures for her where they all walked hand in hand. Grandpa, Grandma, children, Mom, and Dad. On each of the drawings, Dad was always present. Adults didn't scold Nadia for this. They understood that she just missed him very much. Well, Misha just really wanted to have a father too. When they first came to Tamara's room, everyone talked about her health, discussed what the doctor predicted. Misha hugged and stroked his mother, treated her to mandarins. He missed her so much. And then Alla asked, "My dear, leave us alone with Tamara. I need to tell her something very important. Buy me coffee for now, if it's not too much trouble." Oleg understood everything at once and without words took the children away, promising to buy them delicious pastries, and Alla sighed, looked into the eyes of the failed bride, gathered her courage, and said, "Tamachka, I confess, I am very guilty before you. And there is no forgiveness for me. I arranged those unfortunate photos. It seemed to me that it would be better, as if a demon had possessed me. When Sasha died, I regretted my ugly act many times. He loved you so much. And he couldn't build a family with anyone else. Forgive me if you can. I understand that nothing can be returned, and you can't raise Sasha from the grave, but now that we have learned that such a wonderful grandson, Mishenka, is growing up, let's forget all the offenses. Stay with us when you recover. The mansion is huge, there's enough space for everyone. I promise, I will never hurt you again." Tamara didn't hesitate and answered honestly. "You know, Alla Sergeevna," I immediately understood whose hands these photos were from. For many years after that, I hated you and couldn't understand why you destroyed our relationship. I often thought about it, and then looked at it from a different perspective. Both Sasha and I were to blame. We both got angry and stubborn. Each of us defended our own right instead of sitting down and calmly talking things out. Apparently, he didn't trust me 100%, since he believed that stupid photograph, and I was too proud and easily offended. I found out about the pregnancy almost immediately after we broke up, because I could have called him and told him, but no, I decided not to impose. I'll raise the child myself. Secretly, I hoped that he would come to his senses and come back to me. In general, both of us are good. It turned out the way it did. Honestly, I have been very tired of loneliness over the years. It's hard to raise a child alone, and I am very happy and grateful to your husband for finding me and helping me. I gladly accept your offer. Just make sure we have a clear agreement, no more misunderstandings. It's better to discuss everything up front. Is that okay? The women warmly hugged each other, and both of them felt relieved, as if a heavy burden of resentment and misunderstanding had been lifted, accumulating for many years. Tamara quickly recovered and within a month was walking independently with a cane, and was discharged home. Now the whole extended family lived in the mansion of the Morozov family. With each passing day, the relationship between Sasha and Tamara's parents became warmer, and soon they couldn't imagine living without each other. The women happily worked in the kitchen, surprising the head of the house and the children with various treats. Alla Sergeevna worked her magic on her daughter-in-law's appearance, taking her to the best beauty salons and boutiques. As a result, even her own son Misha barely recognized his mother. Tamara became the same beautiful woman she was in her youth. The same long, glossy, and thick hair, fresh and well-groomed face, and stylish and modern updates and gentle nude manicure made her look 10 years younger, exactly. Mishenka also no longer looked like a street urchin. He studied at a prestigious gymnasium, went to boxing and swimming, and simply adored his grandfather, just like Nadyushka did. One night, Oleg Nikolaevich got up to drink some water and suddenly heard his daughter-in-law screaming from her room. He was scared, maybe she was sick or in pain, and rushed there. He knocked softly. "Tamara, baby, are you okay? I heard you screaming." The daughter-in-law opened the door. She was pale and frightened, wiping the cold sweat from her forehead with a handkerchief. Alla Sergeevna came out of her room, concerned, and asked, "What's going on, Tamachka? Are you sick? Look how pale you are, you're shaking all over. Should we call a doctor to come to the house?" The daughter-in-law whispered softly, "Let's go to the kitchen, I'll tell you something," so as not to wake the children upstairs. Tamara drank some water from the pitcher, calmed down a bit, and started to tell her story. "You know, I've had the same nightmare several times already. It's like Sasha is alive, but his head is covered in blood. He's holding onto it and begging me to save him. He's asking me directly, 'My love, take me away. I'm not feeling well. Find me,' and it's repeated over and over again." And now, the dream was almost the same, but Sasha said one more word, or rather repeated it many times past. "Sand. What could it be? I don't know what to do. Maybe he really is alive? And he's somewhere struggling and needs help? Or is it just my sick imagination? Maybe I should go see a psychiatrist." Alla Sergeevna objected. "Don't be like that. I personally believe in prophetic dreams. I had one too, only once in my life, but it was a prophetic dream. I was pregnant with Sasha at the time. I dreamt that I lost my son. I searched for him in his stroller and in his crib, but he was nowhere to be found. And at the very end, his dog brought him to me in its teeth, right by the collar. I remember being surprised. What nonsense is this? What does it all mean?" So, a whole year passed before that dream came true. I had forgotten about it 100 times. So, my husband and I went to our friends for a birthday party and decided to walk back. It was night, and little Sasha was sitting in his sled. He must have fallen asleep on the way and fell out. I rushed over, no son. I screamed, scolded my husband, cried, but the sled was empty. Suddenly we heard a dog barking. We went there. And our child was sleeping like an angel, right where he fell. The dog had noticed him and barked. That's a prophetic dream for you. So anything is possible. What if Sasha really did survive? We never did a forensic examination. We just didn't have time for that. Shock, grief, pain. I couldn't even identify him. I fainted. And my husband only recognized his belongings. And now I'm thinking, maybe it wasn't even Sasha at all? Oleg Nikolaevich became serious and thoughtful, then suddenly ran into his office and brought back a map. He spread it out right on the table and started thinking. The puzzled women just looked at each other and said nothing, not understanding anything. Then the businessman pointed to a certain point on the map and exclaimed, "There it is! Found it! It's a village 100 kilometers from the scene of the tragedy, where Sasha died. It's called Pesky Sand. Because it's located in a sandy area, there's still a huge quarry there. We'll go there with you tomorrow morning, Toma. Just to make sure. What if it's really a prophetic dream? Even if there's 1 chance in a billion that our son survived. We have to check it out." Barely waiting for dawn, Oleg Nikolaevich and Tamara took a thermos with sandwiches and set off on their long journey. They arrived in the village closer to evening. They saw some elderly women sitting on a bench and decided to ask, "Good evening, kind people. Can you please tell us? We're looking for someone. Here's a photo. Have you happened to see anyone like this in the village? This is my son." The old women looked at the photo and replied, "Yes, that's the man our local lumberjacks found in the woods with a bullet in his head a year ago. He's with the witch doctor, Vasilievna, and has settled in with her. She took care of him and left him with her. The poor man lost his memory, he doesn't even remember his name. We call him Peter. It's not right for a person to not have a name at all. The whole village dressed him up so he wouldn't freeze. Her house is over there, on the outskirts, near the woods." Oleg Nikolaevich didn't believe what he heard. Tamara was crying. They immediately rushed to the witch doctor's hut. They knocked, and a skinny old woman came out and asked, "Hello, dear guests, who are you looking for? Do you need help, or did someone spread rumors? I don't remember. What village are you from?" Oleg Nikolaevich, with trembling hands, showed the old woman the photo. "This is my son, Alexander. We thought he died a year ago. We even buried him. Is he with you? Please call him." The surprised grandmother shouted, "Peter, come here, your relatives have arrived." "Oh my goodness! I thought nobody would even look for him, it's been so long. It's so sad, he's struggling and doesn't remember anything, not even his name. When they brought him to me, I even crossed myself, I thought he wouldn't survive, I swear to God. His head was covered in blood and his skull was severely damaged. I worked so hard to nurse him back to health. Poor guy, he was nauseous and vomiting, it's obvious he suffered a serious concussion. And then Sasha came out to the yard, in his shirt and felt boots, with his long, bushy beard. But the most important thing is that he's alive and well. Toma screamed, unable to contain herself, and threw herself onto his neck, forgetting all the grievances. Sashenka, my love, you're still alive. What a joy! She cried and stroked his head, unable to control herself. His father also hugged him. Son! I can't believe my eyes. We thought you were dead. We buried you. We were so grief-stricken. Toma had a prophetic dream that you were alive and here. And here we are. Even though we didn't really believe it was possible. Now I believe in mysticism too. How happy your mother will be. Why are you looking at me like that? You don't remember anything at all? Your name is Alexander Morozov, and I'm your father, Oleg Nikolaevich, and this is your fiancée, Tamara. Come on, son, remember. You love Toma so much, you have to remember. Suddenly, the man grabbed his head and shook it, and cried out, Oh my God! It's like a flash, like lightning. I remember everything. Daddy, I remember everything. Toma, my dear, but we broke up because of my foolish jealousy. How good it is that you've been found. How did you manage to find me at all? Baba Manya found me, thank her, but I completely lost my memory. I close my eyes, and it's all blank. It's so terrifying not to remember anything. You look in the mirror above the sink, and some strange, unfamiliar man is looking back at you, about whom you know absolutely nothing. You're not even human, just a shadow, like Phantom of the Opera. That's how people often end up homeless. If it weren't for Baba Manya, where would I go if I didn't know anything about myself? No documents, nothing at all. Sometimes I felt so sad, I could cry. I thought, what's the point of sitting on this old woman's lap for the rest of my life? Of course, my fellow villagers felt sorry for me. They called me to do odd jobs, fix a fence, mow the grass. But is that really living? Oleg Nikolaevich hugged the old woman. Thank you so much for saving my son. I owe you now. What can I do for you? You say the lumberjacks found my son. Where do they live? I would like to personally thank them for saving my son. The old woman blushed. I don't want anything, especially since I didn't do anything like that. I just took care of the boy, and that's it. Would I be such a beast as to throw a person without memory out onto the street? I gave him a room, everything as it should be. We became friends. He even fixed my porch and helped me gather hay for my goat, and helped in the garden. I'm even sorry to see him go. But I'm glad you found your son. I saw how much he was suffering, crying quietly at night, and trying to remember something about himself. All the best to you, goodbye. Sasha warmly hugged the old woman goodbye, and they went home. On the way, they stopped by the same lumberjacks, Stepan and Nikita, who saved Sasha and brought him to the shaman. Oleg Nikolaevich generously rewarded them, giving each of them a decent sum of money. He shook their hands. Guys, you're heroes. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. You could have just passed by. And then Sasha definitely wouldn't have survived. We were going to the clearing that day, to cut down some trees, and our dog Ryjik followed us. He kept barking and wouldn't leave the ditch. So we went to see what was going on. When we saw your son, covered in blood and not moving, we thought he was a goner, I swear to God. Then they finally dared to approach and he was breathing, so we put him on our shoulders and ran to Baba Main's house. That's the whole story. It's good that you, Sasha, remembered everything and found your family. Best of luck to you. Sasha kept turning his head the whole way home, asking to drive slower, as if he was trying to remember something else. He kept looking around and then suddenly shouted at the turn, "Dad! Stop here, please! This is where it all happened. I remember now." I was driving to a meeting and suddenly I see a person lying on the ground and another waving his arms, asking for help. I stupidly stopped. I thought maybe something bad had happened. Anything can happen. But as soon as I approached them, something heavy hit me in the back of my head. The lumberjacks found me in that ditch after a day and brought me to the healer, Baba Maine, and you know the rest. Oh my God, I even remembered their faces. One was wearing a cap, with a mustache, about 40 years old, and the other was young, agile, in my build and height. I'm amazed at myself. Just yesterday I knew nothing about myself, but when I saw you, something clicked. It was like someone flipped a switch in my head. I remembered everything. Father, what about Nadia? How is my daughter? Does she still live with you? You didn't send her back to the orphanage, did you? She probably forgot about me by now. Kidding, not seeing her father for a year. And Mom? Oleg Nikolaevich calmed his son down. Don't worry, Nadia is with us. We love her very much. She remembers you and misses you very much. We never had the heart to tell her that you had died. She thinks you're on a business trip and will be back soon. Thomas smiled. That's not all the news. You also have a son, your own, Misha. He's 9 years old. When we parted, I found out that I was pregnant. But I was a fool. I didn't tell you anything. I didn't call you. I raised our son myself. It was hard, words can't describe it, especially when I got sick. Misha often asked where his father was, but what could I tell him? I lied and said that he was very far away and couldn't live with us. And recently, Oleg Nikolaevich found me, helped me with an operation, we made up with your mother, and now we all live together in a big house. Oh my God, Sasha, what a miracle that you found us. Sasha cried. He couldn't hold back. These are the news. I have a son too. I didn't even dare to dream of this. I wanted children so much. Will Misha accept me? Will he be offended that his father disappeared for so many years and didn't visit him? Tama, we were such foolish young people. Forgive me, my swallow, for getting angry back then, for believing in rumors about you, for doubting your faithfulness. How many times have I regretted it since then? Even when I lost my memory, your image appeared in my dreams at night, and I kept thinking, waking up, who is this beautiful stranger? Maybe my wife or sister? Why does she appear in my dreams every night? They had been waiting for them at home for a long time. Alla Sergeevna was exhausted, thinking up all sorts of things. When her beloved son finally entered his own home, alive and well, she screamed, grabbed her heart, and fell into a faint, as if cut down. A commotion began. Tamara brought ammonia, Oleg Nikolaevich splashed water on her, and Sasha fell to his knees beside her right on the floor and whispered, Mommy, dear, what's wrong? It's me, Sasha, your son. Finally, she woke up. Phew! Why are you scaring me like that? It's me, Sasha, your son. Finally, she woke up. Phew! Why are you scaring me like that? I'm so happy that you're alive. I was so sad when we buried you. I blamed myself for everything, for ruining your life with Tamachka, for maiming your fate. Oh my dear, let me hug you tighter. Otherwise, it all seems like a dream to me. Her son hugged his mother tightly and comforted her. That's enough, Mommy, stop blaming yourself. What was has long passed. Let's not dwell on the bad. The important thing is that Tom is with you and you have made up. Wait a minute, where are my children? Where's my sweet Bon? Nadyushka ran out of the children's room and started to cuddle her father, kissing him, hugging him and crying. Dad! Daddy! I missed you so much. Why haven't you come for so long? I waited for you, but you never came. Don't leave again, okay? Promise? Sasha kissed her chubby cheeks, breathed in the scent of childhood, and said, I missed you too, my good one. I won't leave again. I'll be with my Nadyushka. Who should I tickle now? But Misha stood quietly to the side and just watched. Everything with a frown. He looked at Sasha distrustfully, under his breath. Finally, the man put his daughter down and approached the boy. He started cautiously, Hello, son. How you've grown. You're already so grown up. Well, shall we get to know each other? I'm your dad, Alexander. The boy didn't reach out to his father and said quietly, Where were you? Why did you only show up now? Do you know how we lived with Mom? How she was sick? If Grandpa Oleg hadn't found me, I don't even know if she would have survived. Why didn't you come to see us with Mom before? I'm not Nadia, and I'm not 5 years old. You don't love us. If you did, you wouldn't have left us. And Misha, in tears, pushed his father away and ran to his room. There was a deathly silence in the hallway. Sasha clearly didn't expect such a strong negative reaction from the boy, and was stunned, not knowing what to do, then sadly said, Well, what did I expect? For him to throw himself at me? He's seeing me for the first time ever. He probably thinks I intentionally disappeared somewhere and didn't visit them. He probably won't forgive me. It's hurtful. I didn't know anything about him. What should I do? Tamara said quietly, Don't be upset, Sasha. Give him time to get used to it. It's too much stress for him. He's a smart and good boy, and he'll understand everything. I'll talk to him. Alla Sergeevna grabbed her head. Well, this is all because of me. Separated father and son for years. Of course, it's upsetting for Misha. He thinks that Sasha left them. Didn't visit, and he didn't know anything. Then Oleg Nikolaevich decided to intervene. Tom, may I talk to my grandson myself? I think he'll listen to me. He's mature and smart, just like me. Grandpa knocked on Misha's door. Grandson, please open the door. I need to talk to you. Misha, in tears, opened the door and waved his hand. Come in, Grandpa. I'm always happy to see you. Oleg Nikolaevich sighed and began to carefully choose each word, explaining to his grandson. You see, Misha, life is a complicated thing. Adults often make mistakes, and sometimes even do wrongs, which they regret for years. You're already grown up, so I don't want to lie to you or make something up. Your father didn't talk to you not because he doesn't love you or your mom, but because he didn't know anything about you at all, you understand. He only found out today that he has a son. And he cried with happiness. Who's to blame for this? It's a difficult question. Everyone is a little bit, even me. Your parents loved each other very much. I witnessed it. But then they had a big fight, and when your mom realized That you were already in her tummy. She didn't tell your dad anything. Because she was angry with him. That's how it happens. But look at it from another perspective. Your mom is a smart woman. She raised you, loved you, never stopped caring for you. And now you have a dad, a grandpa, a grandma. Little sister Nadyushka, is that really so bad? Don't be angry with your father, it hurts him a lot. And it hurts you too. Think about my words. You're a very smart boy, just like me, so I think you'll make up. The chaos and confusion had settled down a bit, and the whole family was sitting down to dinner at the big table. Misha was the last to come out of the room. He walked up to his father and extended his little hand for a businesslike greeting and said very maturely, "I'm glad I have you, Dad. Let's be friends." Sasha picked him up in his arms and almost cried with happiness. Then he replied, "Forgive me, Misha, for not being there for you, but I will make it up to you, and now we will always be together." Everyone breathed a sigh of relief, even Toma shed a tear. Finally all her dreams had come true. They were living together with Sasha and their son. She had long ago fallen in love with Nadyushka and called her daughter and princess. Finally, the children settled down to sleep in their rooms after playing, and Sasha and Tamara went to their bedroom and finally had some privacy. After so many years of separation, Sasha, seeing Tamara in a transparent nightgown, so beautiful and desired, pounced on her like a starving wolf. The woman had also longed for her beloved, and they did not close their eyes until dawn, crying, confessing their love to each other, and holding each other tightly in their arms, as if afraid that all this happiness might disappear. Sasha whispered to her, as he had in his youth, "You are my queen, Tamara. You are my beauty. How I missed you. You are just as you were before, gentle, sensitive, passionate, and my most beloved girl. Forgive me, my dear, for not fighting for our love back then. Fate punished me harshly for that. I will never let you go now." Toma simply melted at these sincere words. Justice had finally triumphed, and they were together again, two loving hearts. She savored the moment, listening to her beloved's steady breathing, and couldn't believe the reality of what was happening. Oleg Nikolaevich went to the prosecutor's office. Sasha's case was reopened. He made a photo fit of the bandits who attacked them. Incredibly, they managed to find one of them. The second one, it turned out, had burned in a car accident, unable to control the vehicle, and they mistook him for Alexander. The body was so badly burned that nothing could be identified. The bandit told them how it all happened. They had already pulled off similar schemes before. It was called baiting. One lay down on the road, while the other attracted attention. When the driver came to help and still didn't understand that it was all a setup, they hit him on the head, threw him into a ditch, and stole his car, changing the license plates and reselling it. But this time, everything went wrong. The accomplices quarreled on the way, unable to divide the stolen money, and one of them threw the other out of the car while it was moving, and he died. That Sasha survived such an injury was nothing short of a miracle, thanks to the old woman Manya, the shaman. Sasha and Oleg Nikolaevich helped her as a sign of gratitude, and repaired her house, built a bathhouse, and even equipped a modern office to receive visitors. The old woman had never dreamed of anything like this, and was very happy with such a royal gift. Tamara decided to do charity work, remembering how close she had been to death and unable to reach out for help. She organized a charity fund and named it Do Good. Here they helped all the needy families who found themselves in difficult situations, found clinics, organized auctions and art exhibitions, and all the proceeds went to pay for the treatment of such people. That memorable little book, bound in leather, was now kept as a talisman in a prominent place in their bedroom. It was that book that helped them find their loved ones and reunite the whole family after many years. Alla Sergeevna was proud of her daughter-in-law and never lost faith in her. They became very close during this time. They talked for a long time about their souls, cooked together, and worried about their men who were still immersed in the oil business. Nadyusha started first grade, and the proud and important Misha took her everywhere and looked after her, threatening all the boys, "You better watch out. Whoever hurts my sister, I'll chop your head off. Got it?" Finally, the troubles and disasters receded, and idol came to the Morozov family. Sasha decided to finish what he couldn't do many years ago and finally proposed to Tamara, as it should be, on his knees with a ring in his hand. The woman burst into tears, because once it was her most cherished dream. What girl doesn't dream of a wedding in a white dress in her youth? Probably, there are none. But when Sasha now, after many years, decided to finally organize a lavish wedding, Tamara suddenly became shy. "Maybe we shouldn't? We're not 18 anymore. We have 2 children. You've already been married. How will all this look? Maybe it's better to just quietly sign and be done with it. Why all this pomp? The most important thing is that we're together." But the man decisively replied, "No way, my dear. You can't escape a wedding. I'm a wealthy man and I can afford to celebrate this event in style. After all, we only live once. I want everyone in the world to know that I'm marrying the best woman in the world, and finally you will become Tamara Morozova." There was a hustle and bustle ahead, and finally this long-awaited day arrived. Happy Tamara looked at herself in the mirror and couldn't believe the reality of what was happening. Today she is marrying Alexander, just as she always dreamed. And it doesn't matter that they had to go through many trials and tests of strength on the way to this. If 2 hearts truly love each other, they will still find each other and be together sooner or later. Oleg Nikolaevich and Alla Sergeevna sat at the festive table in an expensive restaurant and watched with delight as the newlyweds danced the wedding waltz. Sasha tenderly hugged and twirled his beloved, as if she were a weightless butterfly. Tamara was incredibly beautiful in a lush white dress with rhinestones, and her hair with a tiara made her even more like a princess from a fairy tale. Oleg Nikolaevich leaned against his wife and suddenly dreamily said, "Oh, how wonderfully they dance, it's just amazing. They dance like doves. Let's show the young people how to dance the waltz the old-fashioned way. What do you say, dear?" Everyone clapped and admired how Sasha's parents danced in their day, as if they had found a second wind. Someone from the guests shouted, "And now everyone say Gorko." Everyone else picked it up, and the newlyweds passionately kissed, forgetting about everything else in the world. The celebration was a great success, and the whole Morozov family continued to remember the most interesting moments and look at the photos for a long time. Now in the evenings, the relatives gathered by the fireplace and spent a fun time, sharing impressions of the whole day and entertaining the children. Tamara turned out to be a great wife and mother, and the most beloved daughter-in-law. That's how it happens.